Hey everyone, how's it going? Do you remember the chasing games from our childhood? If this game were to go on for a lifetime, would you still want to play? This is an incident that occurred when I was in 6th grade of elementary school, involving a classmate named S. This guy always had suspicious behavior and was quite an enigmatic individual. S would constantly sleep during class, seemingly only coming to school for lunch and then waiting for the end of the day. He became the subject of ridicule by our classmates, and naturally, I also mocked him. In hindsight, he may have had mild intellectual disabilities. The first time we played tag was in 3rd or 4th grade, with several classmates, including S. The rules were simple. The loser of rock, paper, scissors became the ghost. The ghost had to chase the others and find the next person to become the ghost. The remaining players only needed to make sure they didn't get touched by the ghost and return to their seats. If the ghost touched someone, they would lose. I lost in the initial rock, paper, scissors round, so I became the ghost. I started scanning my surroundings to find someone to chase, and I noticed S walking alone, sluggishly. It didn't take long for me to catch up to S. Even as the ghost, S didn't run, he continued to walk sluggishly. Even after the school bell rang, his demeanor remained the same. Once the bell rang, everyone promptly returned to the classroom and sat back in their seats, except for S. It's so boring that he didn't bother chasing after us. What's wrong with him? Everyone collectively complained about S. Shortly thereafter, S entered the classroom. For some reason, he appeared to be crying. S walked directly toward me, who was sitting in a chair. Unexpectedly, he struck me. It seemed like he wanted me to stand up from the chair. Simultaneously, our homeroom teacher walked into the classroom, and the argument ended without escalating into a fight. Because all the students witnessed S's erratic behavior, no one dared to play with S anymore, and nobody was willing to talk to him. Subsequently, a game became popular in our class, which was to stay away from S within a 5-meter radius. This game persisted in our class for a long time. Come to think of it, S starting to fall asleep in class may have originated from that time. In the 6th grade, S and I were assigned to the same class. That meant we had to clean a small conference room together. Although we no longer played the game of avoiding S, I still didn't want to have too much interaction with him. The conference room was a hidden spot where the teacher couldn't see, so nobody really bothered to clean it properly. I held the broom in my hand, trying to maintain balance and goofing around. Others also casually waved their brooms, killing time. Only S was genuinely cleaning. When the bell signaling the end of cleaning rang, everyone tossed their brooms into the broom box and hurriedly left the conference room. I, who was still engrossed in the balancing game, suddenly realized that S and I were the only ones left in the room. I quickly put away my broom and intended to leave the classroom. But at that moment, I noticed S standing tall in front of the broom box, resembling a warrior. In retrospect, I could have just tossed the broom randomly and left, but I was afraid of getting reprimanded, so I told S, "You're blocking the way, move aside." "You didn't touch me back," S remarked. Without wasting a moment, he dashed towards the door and made his escape. Back in the classroom, even though I didn't pursue S, he continued running and eluding me. Then he proudly sat back in his chair, casting a smug glance at me. Is he carrying on with the previous game? I pondered. This peculiar scenario began occurring daily ever since that day. Initially, I was merely perplexed and didn't pay much attention to it. Perhaps it stemmed from the fact that I didn't retaliate when he unexpectedly struck me earlier, and now the more I contemplated it, the more irritated I became. However, I felt that if I touched him even once, I would be sucked into this foolish game of tag, so I restrained myself. I initially believed that if I ignored him, he would eventually stop on his own. However, S's behavior grew increasingly excessive. He even dragged a chair while sitting on it as he made his way to the restroom. And he looked smugly at me. I could no longer tolerate S's teasing. One day, I came up with an idea. I thought, what if on the day of the graduation ceremony, I touched him and then ran away? He would be it until the first day of school, and I knew it would make him really angry. Of course, S had no idea where I lived, and none of our friends would tell him. In the following days, S continued to avoid me, but the thought of his frustration after being touched actually made me laugh. I devised a plan. Whenever S changed his shoes for gym class, as soon as he took off his indoor shoes, I would quickly touch him and then make a swift escape. On that day, after the graduation ceremony and the subsequent farewell meeting, I acted as if I didn't care about S and hurriedly left the classroom. S was always messy and never took his school stuff home, so his desk was cluttered with things. To ensure a smooth execution of my plan, I had already taken all my school belongings home, making it easier for me to escape. I put on my sneakers and hid, eagerly waiting for S to arrive. About 30 minutes later, S appeared, carrying a heavy backpack and dragging his belongings behind him. He took off his indoor shoes. Seizing the opportunity, I smacked him on the head from behind and exclaimed in an annoying voice, "Gotcha." Then, I immediately sprinted away as fast as I could. To my surprise, S's reaction was beyond what I expected. "Ouch," he screamed at the top of his lungs. I burst into laughter while running ahead. Glancing back, I saw S desperately chasing after me. Initially, I thought he wouldn't be able to catch up due to his heavy backpack, and I found it rather amusing. But there he was, running after me barefoot, leaving his belongings behind. Watching his determined pursuit, I laughed triumphantly. S kept yelling, "Damn! Stop!" Eventually, his voice took on a strange, heart-wrenching tone. When I arrived home, I couldn't stop laughing, finally feeling a sense of relief. One evening, while I was watching TV at home, I suddenly heard a sound. It was an eerie, inhuman sound. My gut told me it was S making that sound, and it sent a chill down my spine. Was he still after me? What would happen if he found me? That night, we received an urgent phone call at home. S had died. He was hit by a truck. Later, I learned that he seemed to have disregarded the traffic lights and dashed across the road. He wasn't wearing any shoes, and his body was torn apart. And the timing of S's accident coincided with the time I heard that sound. Maybe because S was moving slowly, dragging his heavy belongings out of the classroom, no one knew this accident had any connection to me. Perhaps he was screaming and running until his last moments. If only that dreadful sound could have put an end to everything. Since the day of S's accident, after hearing that sound, I started to worry if S was still chasing me. Ever since then, I've spent each day sitting on a chair. I feel that as long as I'm sitting on a chair, I'll be safe. Now, I find myself mimicking S's behavior from back then. It's like I can only sleep while sitting on a chair, just as S used to doze off during class. I, like S, have this constant fear that someone might suddenly chase after me, so I've started evading others. It's like playing that game again where you can't get within 5 meters.